This is my new industrial cover stitch machine, Juki MF 7923. I'm going to show you some samples, but this is by no means an instructional video. My machine is not set up properly and the stitches might not be perfect. Let's start with heavyweight ripped jersey with a meshed back. It's a polyester and spandex mix. The divider-like guide on my fit is because I've been using the machine to cover seams. It can be unscrewed. This cover stitch is meant to be used to cover light to medium weight fabric, but it deals really well with heavier weights too. It's not a heavy duty machine. It's a top and bottom cover machine. By removing the spreader thread, it can be turned into an ordinary bottom only cover. You can use 3, 2 or 1 needle. It's mainly used for hemming, especially in knit fabric, and for seam covering, especially in sportswear and underwear. It comes with a hem guide, but I'll show you how it works some other time. This is just an introduction. My machine is all made up of original Juki parts. I also got the magnetic top and bottom thread cutter, which saves time and thread. You don't need to pull the thread to the wrong side or tie any knots. The cut threads are secured. The cutter is expensive though. Mine added about £1,000 to the price of the machine. I think it's worth it. I'm going to show you some other samples. So I'm going to start with some woven cotton, just ordinary cotton, normal weight, so 200 grams or something. And it's not stretchy at all. And the stitches look like that. I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but this is pretty much perfect. And now some coating weight wool blend, which is pretty heavy, and that's what I've been doing. So it should work properly on this fabric, because that's what I've been working on. As you can see, it has no problems covering the seams or making a perfect stitch on wool. If you are not using the spreader, so if you're using only the bottom cover, the fit can lift up to 8 millimeters. So it means that it works better with heavier fabric, but even as it is, so top and bottom cover, it works pretty well. But it only lifts the foot 5 millimeters now. And I'm going to remove the spreader thread and show you how it works just with the bottom cover. So I only have 3 needles and the looper threaded, just like an ordinary cover stitch. I didn't change any settings, so there is going to be some skippage, and yes, you can see that I've got a skipped stitch. But as I said, this is not an instructional video. So I'm going to try and balance the stitch and try again, see if it helps. Well, it's still, the stitch would hold, but it's just not a great look if you have a skipped stitch. But let's try again. By balancing the stitches, I mean, I'm going to quickly adjust the tension. This is, well, don't copy me. This is not an instructional video. But I think it's going to work better now. The stitches do look better. But, well, I'm still practicing. I've got a lot to learn about this machine, and I need to set it up properly anyway. But it looks like that. So it's just the bottom cover, the top is like in your normal hem, just 3 needles. Of course, you can remove the middle needle and have the white stitch. Let's try some French terry, and it should work a little bit better. Sorry about all the untidy fabric, but it's just samples. I just want to show you the stitch. And it looks okay. Quite decent. I would work on that a bit more, but it's still okay. That's the right side, let's say. So that's with the spreader. And some very thin knit. So it's like a sweater knit, but extremely lightweight. And it works better. And I know why it works better. I'm not sure how well you can see, but in here the stitch is pretty perfect. And my least favorite fabric, it's modified jersey, so it's heat modified, and it's very difficult to sew on any machine because it's different densities in places. But this machine is coping. It doesn't look bad at all. It actually looks perfect, let's be honest. Where I thought there were some skipped stitches, they are not skipped stitches. It's just that the fabric behaves differently and it looks as if something was skipped, but it's not. It's all holding together. It's because the fabric is heat modified. This is a semi-dry head machine, which reduces any oil staining risk. It's direct drive, so it's relatively quiet and saves energy. It can sew with up to 6,000 stitches per minute speed. The factory setting is 4,500, but as you can see, it's very easy to control with the foot pedal. You can change the speed on the control panel. My control panel is Juki CP18, and I don't think it's super useful unless the machine works in a factory. Let's talk about the machine very quickly. The tension knobs, there are 5 of them. The bottom one is for the looper, then the spreader, then the 3 for the needles accordingly. Then you've got the lubricator container, but I haven't used any lubrication. That's my cutter, that's my magnetic cutter, and I really like that. I think it's very, very useful. You can regulate the presser foot pressure here with this knob. Then you've got the feed regulation. Well, you can basically regulate the stitch length here. I'll show you closer. You turn the screw, but you can also see it in here. Let me just change the camera angle. So you've got plus and minus here, and you can either extend the stitch, so lengthen the stitch, or make it slightly shorter. You can make it, well, standard is 3.6, but if you make it longer, be careful because the feed dogs can create problems. And you've got the differential here. So you move the knob up and down, but you've got the little screw here. Let me show you. So you unscrew that little screw behind it, and then you move the knob up and down. So if you want to stretch your fabric slightly, put it slightly down. If you want to gather it slightly up. And in here you can remove the cover to either thread the looper or see what's happening inside. And you've got the other plate is the cutter. It's also the part of the cutter, the silver one. But okay, and that's the needle guard. That's, well, health and safety, right? You can also open the side cover here. It's not very easy. And you can see the end of your looper, and you can clean the machine better. So you can see the tip of the looper there. And you can see the cutter. And my control panel that I need to work on, I don't really know. You can control the oil levels there in the dome. You can also see the oil levels here. It should be between the 2 lines that are there. And you pour the oil on top under this black cover that you can't see now. But that's the plate that is the part of the cutter. It needs to be closed for the cutter to work. And my pedal, that's a Juki standard pedal, so when I press at the back, I lift the foot, and when I press a bit harder, I use the cutter. And direct drive, as I said. Don't forget to like the video if you want to see more. Thank you, and see you soon.